This is season 2 of our episode of our podcast, The Reinforcing Conversations, Shaping Better Behavior, one talk at a time. My name is Christina Torres.
I'm Nicole Stewart, and this season is made possible through support from the New England Center for Children. The New England Center for Children, for over 50 years, the worldwide leader in autism education and research. Through our schools, clinics, consulting services, and the ACE ABA software system, we are shaping a more inclusive future for all.
Thank you for that introduction. Now, this past weekend, I did a lot of connection and community building at the BCBA Summit in Atlanta. And oh my gosh, I am still recovering from this past weekend. My body definitely doesn't take travel as much, I guess, any better. But I had so much fun. Like standing, I think that's another thing, guys. When you guys go to conferences, there's a lot of standing. And I had my heels, my little kitten heels on, and man, my body is a wreck after wearing those all day long. But it was such a grand time. Wow.
Oh, I'm so glad. What type of events do you feel like were so helpful for networking?
Yeah, so ABA Versus, I'm a part of the ABA Versus team, and we're bringing dynamic, fun, engaging networking events for our space. So on Thursday, which was the first night, we held a networking mixer, and it was an outside event, and it was in this little mall area. So there was stores and restaurants around, and it was so cool. It was so cute. It was a couple steps in, and there was these big banners outside to block the sun. But there was screens, and we had music, and we were doing interviews. So we had the backdrop, and we were able to do some fun little networking mixers, networking games. I need you guys to connect with 3 new people on LinkedIn, find someone that lives in a different state to kind of get people up and going and kind of lollygagging and meeting people new, especially since our field is so unique and it's so nichey, right? It's when else are we going to be able to connect with other people in our space in real life?
Yeah.
So that was one of the events. And then they had a 3-on-3 basketball game. So the BCBA Summit stands for Black Men in ABA. So they were playing basketball, and man, I was like, oh my God, they're going to be so sore, especially since a lot of the guys were older like us. It was so much fun though. So that was one of the events. And then our last event was the block party. And that was so much fun. There was big Jenga, the food trucks, the liquor, the stage. We had Jared drop the mic. So he had a whole persistent teaching course, which was super cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's learning and networking.
Yeah. So it was such a whole vibe. We had double dutch. We were able to play some double dutch. It was a real block party. So shout out to Gerard and setting that whole thing up, and the ABA team and the conference committee, because it was such a cool, experience. And the connections were so authentic, and it was so cool to listen to people's stories. And especially to connect with people that have been a part of my ABA Made Easy community. It's always exciting for them to be like, oh my God, I follow you on my page, or they share how my page has impacted them. And it's just so cool to know wow, I just sit online and I just conversate with people, right? Just how we are. And the opportunity to connect in real life is just wow, I love what I do. And there's a reason why I continue to show up. So that's kind of a bit of everything.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I leave things like that feeling inspired and invigorated. And that's I always look for things that breathe energy into me. And so if you leave feeling like you have more energy, although you seem tired, but I feel like that's the effects of traveling, then that's the goal. Is I feel so good about my field or the people I've met. I love the networking icebreakers, go connect with 3 new people on LinkedIn. That's such a good idea. And I don't see a lot of events that do stuff like that.
Yeah. There was a lot of engagement pieces, even the speakers. I went to the Shannon, he was speaking, and he had us, stand up with a stranger and speak positive affirmations into them. So it's you share a little bit, and it was wow, I see you as a leader, and I see you as a mentor. And it was so oh my God, what am I going to say? But when you really just connect with someone, and it's wow, especially the guys, to speak with another guy in the field, it was so cool to hear their perspective on things. So that was another engaging piece. There was just a lot of Like, honestly, I was so inspired to start submitting for more papers at conferences. I was like, dang, I got to do more of these speaking because
Yeah, you
motivated.
do.
I was so motivated and inspired after that conference. And
Yeah.
it's just so cool to connect in real life. Like every conference that I take is just it's just nice to connect, but also as a business owner, right? And an entrepreneur, there's booths and you don't know who you're going to end up connecting with. So that's also one of the important parts of collaborating and building a community in the field that we're in.
Yeah, it's also true. And I think something I just thought of too is like you were talking about this, and I feel like what you're describing made ABA fun. And I
Yeah.
think it just relates so well to what we are the like heart of the topic that we want to talk about connection. Because this episode is really, we want to try to gear it more towards RBTs because, and technicians, and families and parents, because the BACB just released their new guidelines that we were talking about a little bit earlier for CEUs and professional development. And so, like every other CE provider, Christina and I have been dissecting the ACE handbook, trying to figure out how are we going to make this podcast geared towards both BCBAs and RBTs and to families and also meet all these requirements.
I know, right?
And I think what we've landed on is that, every piece is the heart of the team. There's like no way to take it all out, but we want to start building resources for technicians and to support that role in that place. And so we're going to have episodes that might be geared towards BCBAs or might be geared towards families. But I think a lot of our content, we're looking at that direct care role and like how that role, that entry role, and how that works, but it can fit anybody in any part of the team. And so like I don't know, the fun to tie this back to my original thought, because I swear there
I'm
is a
getting
train
there.
and a purpose. We're getting there. Everything you're describing, like the basketball, you're doing basketball and you're doing these icebreaker games. It sounds like ABA is so fun.
It
And I
is
feel like
if you make it
that's,
fun.
yeah. And I feel like that's the whole point. And like my whole, when we're putting together this outline for this episode, the whole thing is like, connection is so important and developing a rapport with the client, with the families, with the other stakeholders is so important because you want them to like you and to like, especially the clients, you want the clients to find you fun. And I feel like you are describing an event that like sold ABA and like makes people want, and I feel like when I was doing all this research, it's all about how like ABA has like a branding problem because we don't, we're not approachable, or like teachers don't find us
Yeah,
approachable and parents don't find us approachable. And like that event sounds approachable.
yeah, 100%. And one of the things, because we did got to speak, we spoke a little bit about ABA versus, right? And one of the things that I shared is like, guys, yes, we're professionals, but we also have a personality, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, why can't we vibe? Why can't we have our own groove and, be ourselves? Like you could have a credential, be professional, but also enjoy your time and share that moment with others that also are reinforced by the same type of things. Even
Mm-hmm.
food, right? It's like, oh my gosh, food trucks and everything was included. If you bought a summit ticket for the block party, you had gotten free barbecue. We had salmon, we had
Oh my God,
cupcakes, we had
amazing.
barbecue ribs, we had everything. All that was included with your ticket price. And you got a whole vibe. It was such an experience. Let's just say that. And I'm so glad that it happened. And it's like so exciting to be a part of the field where it is right now, just to like be so hopeful for what's to come, but building a
Mm-hmm.
connection and finding ways to connect with everyone that's a part of your community and especially your learners, right? It's like we have to all be on the same page for them. So, how can we all be reinforced by each other's presence and also respect everyone's authority and find a way to meet everyone in the middle?
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like that's all possible. And some of the research that I came across here is that, people feel that BCBAs can be condescending or that BCBAs are just going to tell you what to do, that BCBAs are not,
So nice.
yeah, are not friendly, or that there's this one-sided trust expectation. And we first have to kind of cultivate it within our own community of ABA professionals and then be able to push that out into the rest of the world. I feel like there's divisions of ABA, and there's people who believe in this and people who believe in that, and people like ABA sometimes does feel very divided and like
Mhm.
an us against, like, what do you always say? It's an us and a we, not a
Us and
me.
we, not he or she. Like I
Yeah.
by themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like we need to be a field. We're an us and a we, ABA as a field, and not every single thing we do stands for our field. But there's a lot of like, oh, well, that was the old ABA. But then there's like researchers who are like, oh, well, the new ABA doesn't have the same treatment integrity. And it's like, but what if it's just high quality ABA is all good?
Or like,
We all work on it together.
yeah, and it's like honestly, I honestly feel like it really comes down to the provider and practitioner, right? It's like it really comes down to soft skills and being able to build a rapport with whoever's on your team to functionally communicate effectively to find out
Hmm.
what do you need help in? How can we meet this learner where they're at? As the BCBA talking to the RBT, like what are some programs that, are maybe your least favorite that you don't like to run or maybe don't make sense to you, right? Being able to communicate with everyone is really going to help determine the outcome of the treatment that we're providing. And it's like if it's uncomfortable for RBTs to speak up to BCBAs or be afraid to say like, hey, I don't know how to run this program, or you didn't write any description, so I don't run it, and they're afraid to ask you for help, then what does that say about the treatment that's being provided, right? It's like everyone
Hmm.
needs to feel comfortable and confident having open communication and dialogue with everyone on the team.
Yes. And I feel like the way that you need to do that is by pairing. And so as the
Yeah,
behavior analyst needs to do what they say and say what they mean and develop a strong rapport
yeah.
with the whole team in order for people to feel comfortable saying like, hey, like I don't really get why we're doing this program. And so I feel like it like that to me is like the heart of building that effective connection. And if we don't build those relationships, then you're right. Like nobody's going to tell anybody. And I think the same as like if you're an RBT and you're going into somebody else's house, then and you just are like, oh, hey, hi, like the ethics code says I'm not allowed to like have a relationship with you. So I don't want to interact with you, like
Yeah, they
I,
overgeneralize what a dual relationship is,
yeah. And it's like, no, you can like ask them how their weekend was. It's
right?
okay. It'll be
Yeah.
okay. But then like the parents don't want, they're like, well, oh, this like super unfriendly girl comes into our house every day. I don't know if I trust her. I don't know if I like her. I don't know if I trust her with my kid. And this is like what I was really looking for in like some research. There's not a lot of research on pairing, first of all, in general, which I think is crazy. There's not a lot of trainings on it. There's like not even just on the idea of,
You got to create it then.
I know, how
My
do you
favorite
build a
thing to
connection?
do.
I
I
know. Stay
have a
tuned.
whole,
Pairing made easy.
literally, I have a whole ebook on
Yeah.
building connections professionally and personally on how to
Yeah.
build rapport,
Yeah.
essentially. All these different ways and strategies to consider of how you can really build a relationship so simply, professionally, personally, or whatnot. So I have a question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to build rapport? Like, what are some of your go-tos?
To build a rapport with a client.
Yeah. Well, how do you build rapport with a staff? And then how do you build rapport with a family?
Okay. Let's see. Staff, I usually try to set expectations. So, hi, I'm Nicole. This is my role. This is your role. What questions do you have? Let me tell me a little bit about yourself. And then just trying to have I try to start as very conversational. And then if I can, like if they have an email or phone, I know their phone number, I'll probably text them or email them like, can you fill out this form so I can learn more about you? It might be like, when's their birthday or what are their favorite foods or, how do they like feedback?
Yeah, that's a good one.
What's their experience in ABA? I mean, I do that for my grad students too. I always have them fill out a form of like, what's their experience? What do they want to do? Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
I want to understand your professional life and your professional depth, not just like you're here in this moment and you work with this client, but how does this moment fit into your bigger story of where you've come from and where you plan to go? More so, I'm not so good at the like, what kind of music are you into or who are you
Yeah.
living with? Like, I don't know. I've had people tell me too much drama where I'm like, I don't need to know about you and your boyfriend fighting, but I do try to get to know them on a professional level. And then trying to really lay up like, oh my God, if you don't, I feel like I play up, oh my God, I feel like I'm exposing all my secrets. I play up my like lady kind of personality of like, if you don't understand anything, it's probably me. You gotta
Yeah.
tell me because I say stuff and then I don't know if I don't understand it. And if you don't tell me that you don't understand it, I'm just gonna keep
Yes.
speaking like that. And
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I feel
It's
like
like
I
you
kind of
just
play
double
up.
checking in with them, like, you understand what I'm saying? Right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I do that.
And I use like really subtle language cues, like, am I making sense? As opposed to like, do you understand? Or like, do you have any questions? I'll be like, am I making sense? Or like, what questions are coming up for you? As opposed to like, do you have any questions? I feel like, what questions are coming up? Like, I try to like really look for language that's as inviting as possible. It doesn't always work. People don't always like me.
No,
They're
yeah.
like,
I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I know a couple of BCBAs that also use like the surveys too, like, oh, a preference assessment, what do you would prefer? Especially
yeah.
when you're on like a more of a leadership role and you have like more say in regards to like different structures of how the clinics ran or scheduling and all those different types of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also to that point where you said that you asked them about like, oh, does that make sense? Like keeping it. Also asking open-ended questions is a really good way to build rapport,
Mm-hmm.
get more
It's a good one.
context of
Yeah.
their knowledge and insight and perspective of uh,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I'm definitely so I still pick up hours in my friend's clinic and usually, especially if we get like a new staff, I'm always so excited, like, oh my God, it's like, nice to meet you, Christina, one of the BCBAs. And then I usually kind of go with like, oh, have you worked in the field before? Just to kind of like start the conversation, but also to build rapport, but also kind of gain like where there may be, what their baseline is. And then based off of how they kind of like, oh yeah, I've worked in the field, like, oh my God, like, tell me about it, like in the clinic, in the home. So it's like I kind of like ask questions to help formulate my little TA of okay, let me figure out what areas they've been exposed to, what age groups that they have worked with before. Coming from, we've worked in a lot of different environments in a lot of different age range. So based off of those contexts, you build different skill sets when it comes
Yeah.
to that, right? So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
curate questions to help me understand the skill set that this individual is coming in with to better understand how to navigate the next question.
Yeah.
If they're brand new in the field, it's super exciting too. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that I get to, help explain what the science is and help you understand things from a behavioral perspective. So it's like, I want them to feel comfortable knowing, okay, yeah, I don't have a lot of experience in this field, but it's letting them know, oh, I'm so excited to help you understand how to see things from a behavioral perspective. So it's always fun getting the newbies. It's like, oh, you think you're gonna go become a BCBA?
I know.
Gotta get them excited to learn the science, but also to really understand the learners that they're going to be working with. I do a lot of modeling. I love to they're always asking me like, do you want a chair? And it's like, I'm always on the floor. Like my knees, that's why
Yeah.
my knees crack 100 times a day, guys, because crisscross applesauce for me, but I'm always on the floor. And I love, love, love to really model generalization. And I always ask them to like, can you read, like if they ask me, like with discount, I always have them read, I'm like, oh, can you read the definition for what I put there? Just, I tell them to read it out loud so that we're both listening to it.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And not only does you get to listen to it together, but they could actually see what I actually wrote because sometimes when they're working with multiple clients, it could just be, oh, I see this program that maybe another kid has, but it's probably written differently because every kid is
Right.
in a different phase of that similar program. So they could just
Right.
assume it's this, but it's like, no, 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 like this kid is not on that. So I like to kind of have them read it out loud so that they can actually see what's current instead of
Yeah.
assuming how to run the program. And then I also, when I'm updating goals, I will have them read it out loud to me, or I have them read it first and I ask them like, does it make sense to you? Because if it doesn't, let me know so I could edit it because it usually
Right.
makes sense in my brain, but sometimes it doesn't come out right how I type. So I always just ask, it's like reassuring if it makes sense for
Mm-hmm.
them because maybe it makes sense to me, but it doesn't come out right on the words, you know?
Right. Well, it sounds like you very quickly trust and like seek out the staff member's opinion because
Absolutely.
you understand that they are
They're gonna be
whether or
the
not
ones
they
running this.
yeah, and like whether or not they know ABA doesn't matter. that part doesn't matter. They're the ones running it. And so they have to feel confident in their ability to run it. And
Yes.
so that means that what you're disseminating to them has to be clear. And
Technological, right?
yes,
Principles,
yes.
like anyone should be able to run this. Like you should not be able, like you shouldn't have to ask me a question because I should be able to write it with examples and non-examples for you to feel confident in knowing what step we're in.
Right. And so you respect that they are a competent human being who is capable of reading something and executing it. And if for some reason they're not, there's space to clarify the directions or there's
Ask
space
for help.
to, yeah, there's space to collaborate to make it clearer for them, as opposed to what I think, one of the articles that I'd read, the Squires article in 2023, they did focus groups and they interviewed special education teachers, and then they pulled out some quotes, but they also tried to quantify basically like this qualitative information. And like some of the quotes are, they felt that BCBAs were condescending when they assumed the teacher knew nothing about behavior. And what you're doing is you're like, I understand you know not, I'm going to bring the knowledge about behavior, but you're going to bring the knowledge about how to execute this
Application.
with the client because
Mhm.
you are a competent, capable, strong human being
Yeah.
who is able to learn this when given the right support system.
Yes, absolutely. And I want them to feel confident when I'm not there,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like I'm in the session and I'm modeling. It's like, okay, let me do it first. Okay, let me look at the charts first and see like, okay, we need one more data point at 80% or whatever so that we could go to the next phase to kind of help the programming come along, right? So it's like, okay, we're going to target this together. So I'll let them know like, okay, I'm going to run it and you're going to take the data, you know? And then I usually like to run it like twice and then it's like, okay, do you see how I got it and like see the vibe? It's all about the vibe too with the learner, guys. Like
Mm-hmm.
you absolutely at the clinic we have time zones. So it's like this 30 sections for net. This one is for DTC. This one's for parallel play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I tell them too, it's like every day is gonna look different, and that's okay. It's okay to modify the demand or the task, right? So depending on the vibe of our learner, you're just going to read the room and kind of go with what's flowing and what makes sense. So I like to kind of give them 2 trials of how I run things and see if it differs. Like we share why I may have used a different approach or why I may have used the token economy on an FR1 instead of a variable schedule,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could see like that momentum piece but understand the nonverbal cues that our learners displaying. You see how he's trying to elope, that's an elopement, score an elopement, and we're going to prompt on his AAC device, I need a break, I need help, I need to run, you know what I mean? So that they could see how, maybe this trial didn't go perfect, but there's still learning opportunities that could be made when it may have not went how you expected it or may have wanted it to go.
Right.
So it's like, letting them know like, hey, I'm the BCBA, I'm running it. It may have not been perfect, but I'm going to show you how we can make it perfect and make the value quality. Like I always say too, it's like you want to aim for quality sessions instead of quantity. Like quantity is
I
what
like
we
that.
want, but if you can only get like 3 quality trials, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Like aim for quality instead of like, oh, we got to do this 100 times. No, quality, quality, quality. And that really
Right.
helps with them being able to kind of support our learners and see it from that lens.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like I love oh my God, I love the quality over quantity and the
Yeah.
whole piece about the vibes too, because I just think that
Energy.
I'm very energetically driven, and I feel like kids have good days and bad days. And I know that I've worked in places and I've worked with techs who have had this pressure of like, oh, you've given me 10 programs and I have to get through my 10 programs. But now here is a kid who had a bad day, doesn't want to do anything, and you're like, I got to get through this because it's my job to get through this. And actually, it's not your job to get through this. It's your job to support this child and meet them where they're at in this moment
This in this moment,
and
right now.
help them through the moment that they're having now so that when they're feeling this way in the future, they know what to do. That's actually the most functional thing for them, not like to make sure they learn what a firefighter does in an emergency. Yes, that's important, but managing their own feelings and emotions and learning to self-regulate and request space or request a break or tell
Yes.
you this is too hard right now. That self-advocacy.
Oh my God, it's huge. And
Yeah.
I was telling one of the RBTs that was at the conference too. I'm like, listen, emotional regulation Precursor behaviors, FCT, those are the three things that it's always going to be at the top of your mind right now. It's like, I see a precursor, enter FCT. Do you need help, buddy? Do you need a minute? You want help you? You want to do odds or you want me to do evens? You know, like you want to be proactive before it turns into reactivity, right?
Right.
And you are not going to get anything done if our learner is dysregulated or overstimulated. So as soon as you start seeing these precursor behaviors, you start seeing they're starting to come a little overwhelmed, you need to pause what you're doing and address emotional regulation first, period. That should always be your go-to. And it was, and that's another thing too that I really appreciated about this conference, that there was a huge community of RBTs and BTs. Yes, I got the goosebumps thinking about it too. And just being able to, and so many of them came up to me asking me for advice and tips and stuff. And they all had their notebook and they were writing all these things down.
So cute.
And they were just so appreciative of that perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And that really goes such a long way of understanding how to support our kids in every moment, because every moment is individualized. And that's how you're going to build a safe space for your kid to trust you and have that connection and that rapport with them to know like, hey, I can feel safe with the being overstimulated in this room because Christina's going to help me navigate it and help me model to get myself regulated, to be able to have me be able to advocate for help or a break, or I need to use the bathroom, right? So it's just kind of stressing, like when you are working one-to-one, guys, you need to know that your learner needs to trust you. They need to, and it's also reciprocated. It needs to be a reciprocated relationship. It's not one-sided. It's just like understanding where your learner is, always meet them where they're at, support them emotionally, and help them navigate the environment around them.
Right. Right. There's like a quote. It's like the predictable pairing consequence of behavior and consequences. Like you need to be predictable and trustworthy to your learner, but then I guess we need to really understand our learners. And I feel like you have to have this deep understanding. And I know for me, when I'm looking at those signs of pairing, and I think goes how I build a connection with the child and the family. I really default to the parents for them to give me information. I had a kid who I kind of thought it was going badly. I was like, oh my God, this kid's running away from me.
Yeah, right.
He keeps going into different rooms. He would only sit still with me for like 30 seconds at a time, and then he'd run off and go do something else. And at the end of the session, the parents were like, his leg accidentally touched yours and he didn't freak out and he likes you.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
I know, right? It's like, oh my God. Like,
yeah, I had no idea. And it changed my perspective. And I was like, I don't know what he looks like with any other person. So to me, I was always taught like, oh, pairing means they approach you and they make eye contact and they come to you and they man for things. And like for this child, physical proximity, he was the closest to me than they'd seen with any provider in months for the longest amount of time. And I was like, oh my God. So I need to ask the parents, what does it look like when they have a good relationship with someone? When this child has a good relationship or when this child is starting to trust someone?
Yes, absolutely. Right. Because like, especially as a new BT or BT, especially I'm thinking about the home setting, right? Because the home, guys, it could be lonely. It could be awkward. If you're new in the space, it's like, oh my God, I'm going into a stranger's home for the first time. I have no idea what the parents look like, what the kids look like, what the home environment is going to look like. Do they have pets? Is it on the fourth floor? What's neighborhood? Like, right? All these different things.
Yeah.
How does this kid build rapport? What are they interested in? So to kind of like, you know, like knock on a door and it's like, oh, okay, it's happening, right? Because you get all these feelings like, oh my God, I'm so scared. And then you meet the kid and it's like, oh my God, hi.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's running away from me. But it's like, yeah, that's okay, right? You just kind of get adapting to the environment and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But I think it's so important to, you said, ask the parents, like, oh, how do you know? How would I know? Ask him, how would I know if he's interested or he's okay with me being around my presence, right? And kind of asking, oh, how do I know? Or what are those precursor behaviors to kind of look out for if I could tell it might turn a little sour, right?
Yeah.
These are all things that you're going to get from the caregivers and the parents or the teachers. Whoever's working with them the longest will be the best, like, insightful person for sure. Be that knowledge, which then piggybacks off of your role, because now you are going to be the one that's going to be supporting our learners for a longer duration. And now it's going to come down to you to be the advocate for our kids, because you are really going to know them best. So when the BCBA is around, that's your job to advocate for your kid. Like, hey, you know what? I don't think he has the prerequisite skills for this goal. Maybe we should scale it back a little bit. Or, like
Right.
it's mastered already. Like we got to go to the next step. Like, so don't be afraid to tell the BCBA what works and what probably needs to be paused on, because you are essentially the advocate for every kid that you're working with.
Right. And I think to piggyback on that, because that just like really got me thinking too of like how that ties into the role of an RBT. Let's say you have a child, the BCBA puts in a toothbrushing program, because I think that this is probably a common scenario, and the kid hates. If you don't tell the BCBA that this child is struggling with toothbrushing and you need more support or whatever, you're going to harm your relationship with that child by forcing them to brush their teeth all the time and by not having more tools in your toolbox. If you're just like trying to figure out how to get through it, like use your BCBA for help. Like, hey, I know you want to teach this kid to brush their teeth independently, but like they won't even go in the bathroom. Or like every time I say toothbrushing, he throws something at me. And so now like I don't want to do toothbrushing,
I
and
want to be paired with that.
yeah, and he doesn't want to be around me because he knows I'm going to make him do toothbrushing and I'm the only person who makes him do it. You could work with the BCBA to solve that problem, because it's the connection over correction kind of thing. It's only going to harm your connection if you don't address that problem, if you don't advocate for that client, if you don't say, we got to back this up. We're not at brushing their teeth independently. We're at tolerating the toothbrush. We're at tolerating me saying toothbrush. And if you don't know what that means, you don't know where you're at, just at least telling the BCBA is really important, because they're only there maybe once a week.
Yeah, well, you should be supervised at least 5% if you're RBT of your hours. The client should also be receiving at least 5% of the treatment hours.
Right.
Sometimes you get like 20% too. So you should ask your BCBA, depending on your client, like, oh, how many hours do you have for supervision, so that you could be mindful too. And you could request like, hey, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work with so-and-so. So can you supervise me on Thursday? Because Thursday is the day where he may have come from after school or grandma's house, or, wherever you're struggling with, tell your BCBA, hey, I really need help around noontime during this activity. Can you be present for me, for us, so we can navigate this together? So don't be afraid to ask for specifics, okay? Operationally define the areas that you need help on, so that you could get the training and support that you need. And then you could feel confident and you guys have successful sessions together, because you're not trying to escape an aversive situation, or now you're not running the program because you're scared, and now the treatment's not being implemented. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Essentially, exactly what it is.
And I think the way that you just phrased it too, because I hear people say like, I don't even know what to do in this time. You need to help me. And it's like, yes, it's about you, but it's also about, when you phrased it in a way that made it sound like it was about the client, because it is about the client.
Yeah, it is.
And I think when you phrase it and everything comes back to the client, there's a lot less. I think that where the connection breaks down is when the egos get involved. Like, why aren't you coming to support me? You're supposed to be here 5% of the time. Come and support me 5% of the time. Or like when the parents are like, oh, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Or the RBT and the parent are talking about something being an issue and the BCBA feels left out. I feel like that ends up all being about all the egos. And I think a way to keep some of the connection on the team is when you intentionally make your language client-centered. Because at the end of the day, all those egos are about the client for the most part. The exception occasionally, but most of the egos are about the client, and everybody feeling so strongly they want what's best for that client and expressing it in like a me-centered way. And like, let's come back to, who are we here for? We are all here for this child or this person, and I need you to come and help me so that this child can continue to make progress, so that this child gets the help they need.
Exactly. I get often too, where a lot of RBTs will ask me like, oh, how do you build rapport with the BCBA? And it's like, oh my gosh, it makes me so sad that you don't have a relationship with your BCBA. Like, oh my God, like what? And if you're a BCBA listening to me, to this podcast, and you don't have a rapport, or you don't know if your staff feel confident having conversations with you, then you need to reframe your thoughts and really analyze your own behavior, guys, because as behavior analysts, we're the ones responsible for shaping the future leaders. We want them, it's our job to disseminate our science, right? To break down and explain why we may take this approach, why we're going to use this, DRA instead of this, why we're going to use a token economy, how often we're going to use a token economy. It's our job to explain the science that we've been investing our times in to understand and learn. But we have to support those that are the ones that don't have as much knowledge as us. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it does not take a lot of effort to have a conversation with somebody to hear their perspective on things. To
Oh,
understand, like,
100%.
oh, how's it been going? How are you feeling on things? Like, is there anything that you're struggling with? Is there anything you want me to model? Just like, what's your favorite, or what's the most like, what's a highlight that you've noticed or you picked up on that, little Johnny is making some progress on? Like, just yesterday, one of my texted me like, oh my God, so-and-so, his imitation skills, he was able to do it independently all on his own after the first two trials. It's like, oh my
Oh,
God, yay, like so much progress. And it's like, oh my God,
yeah.
thank you for sharing that with me. Like, I'm not at the clinic, but the fact that they're so excited and proud of our learner to share that with me, and I took the time to respond back, oh my God, that's incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Share that joy of the accomplishment of shaping independence for our kid. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it does not take a lot of effort to really, have our RBTs and BTs be heard, to feel confident in the role that they're doing. They're working so hard working one-to-one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the same. You just described the same approach behaviors to get like behavior analytic on it that we want to see in our clients, right? Is that you want the RBTs to be reaching out. If you don't feel like you want to reach out to your BCBA to share positive things,
Mm-hmm.
you might not have an effective relationship with them. Like if you don't want to read, if the BCBA, if you're a BCBA and you're not hearing from your RBTs about positive things or hearing about questions, you might not have an effective relationship with them. Like it's like the approach behaviors, it's that they want to ask you things, approaching, manding, joint attention, like it's the same behaviors that we want to look for in our clients that we want to look for in our colleagues as well.
Yeah. And also too, don't just ask yes or no questions. Like, have it
Yeah.
open-ended, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you feel how do you feel about this program? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, oh, like what are some ways that you were able to generalize this one step direction? You know what I mean? Or make taking data collection fun during one of our blocks, right? It's like, we have a couple kids where, they can't sit at the table for longer than 12 seconds, but we are tracking how long they attend to activities. So it's like, okay, well, let's take eye away on this little time block of how long so-and-so is able to engage with all the different activities. Especially
Mm-hmm.
taking data could take time, right? So it's like, okay, if we're not able to focus on DTI trials, that's okay. Let's shift our focus on his attending programs to see, okay, well, that was 12 seconds. What you got? 9. Okay, this one was 47 seconds. You see what I mean? So that they can actually see, like, wow, so they can get an average of like his attending span, but also it'll help them understand like why he's not able to sit at a table for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
how we can manipulate the environment for it could be more exciting and motivating for our friends to sit at the table. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you see how we took the data on this? Now I'm going to go play with him, and I'm going to let you take the timer, and let's see how long he's actually able to engage while him and I play together. And it's like, oh my God, he sat for 3 minutes. Yeah. So he is capable of
Yeah.
attending. What did I do different? You see what I mean? We got to model it. This is so exciting because I remember one of our friends, right? Like, same profile, can't sit for long. And then I was modeling all these different ways that we could play with the blocks, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
he's bouncing around the room, and I'm sitting in the middle of the floor, and I'm playing with the blocks by myself because I'm waiting for him to be motivated to come independently to play with me, right? I'm not forcing him to come play. And so I
Mm-hmm.
built the tower nice and tall, and then he sees it and he's motivated. He comes and says, oh, you want the red one or you want the blue one? Oh, you got the yellow, non-verbal. And so he picks the yellow. Oh, you want the yellow one? Okay, you put the yellow one on. And so we're making fun and interactive. And they were not, they haven't seen him play as long as he did with me. And they're like, oh my
Aw,
God.
look
I'm
at
like,
you.
yeah. And it's like, but this is
Yeah.
what you got to do when I'm not here too. So
Yeah.
you saw how I was able to get him engaged and motivated and showed him a whole bunch of different ways to play. And you notice how I was enriching the environment by giving positions, colors, my turn, your turn. Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
crash. Verbals. You see, it's just kind of like helping them see that the potential in the learners that we are working with, because that's also another thing too, right? It's like if they don't have the skill set of ABA to know, oh, let me enrich this, or add an intraverbal, or get that behavioral momentum up, or
Mm-hmm.
show facial expressions. Like all of these things
Yeah.
are part of ABA, guys. So being able, that's why
Yeah.
ABA is literally like a craft and an art. So being able to model how I use ABA is really going to help them carry over what they just saw me do when I'm not there, and be able to actually see the impact that they're going to make because I was able to model things.
Yes. And I think that like you said all that, it's so individualized to the kid too, and reading the kid's cues, reading their behavior and adjusting yours accordingly. And so if you come in and you're like, "Hi, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you." And the kid
Yeah.
recoils, you might be like, "I'm sorry, maybe my voice was too loud. Is this
Yeah.
better?" Even if they're not going to respond. I'm going to acknowledge that you like put your fingers in your ears, and that's you communicating that I'm too loud right now. I'm not going to expect you to say I'm too loud because we just met
Yep.
and I don't know how you communicate yet, but you showed me some kind of communication. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is good enough. And so I'm going to respect that, and I'm going to change my tone because not everybody loves pairing isn't always just like bubbles and a bubbly personality. It's not always bubbles. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't mean everybody loves when you're like, "Oh my God, the wheels on the bus. Yay!" Like
Mm-hmm.
not every kid likes that. It's overwhelming for a lot of kids. So I find that like I feel like I see that BCBAs tend to teach techs that come in with the bubbles, come in with all the toys. And some kids don't want you to do that. They need you to set the tone at a calmer tone. They want to play outside. They pair by going for a silent walk, and just knowing that you'll be there and go for a walk with them is enough. There may be different ways that they're pairing. And so I think it's really important to learn how to individualize that and to read the child's behavior in the pairing process to be responsive and not get discouraged and not be like, "Oh, I did a bad job." To be
Yeah.
like, "You're not responding to this and I'm going to keep trying."
Yeah, and I love that you said that too, right? Because I also get often like, especially for our friends that are not speaking vocally yet, it's like, how do you build a rapport with the learner that's nonverbal? Like I ask them to do something and they don't respond. Don't think that you're not doing your job well because they're not responding, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that they're not responding. Kids don't respond a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
So don't take it personally. It's going to be the biggest kind of kicker. Like, please remember, like, do not take it personally if they don't respond, if they don't engage with you, if they don't take turns. Okay. Oh, can I have a turn? Ignore you, didn't respond. All right, next time. All right, I'm gonna play by myself over here. Right? It's okay that things take time, and rapport is something that you never stop building rapport on. Right? It's like you don't just stop building rapport after the first 4 trials sessions. It's something that you constantly are evolving
Mm-hmm.
and you're building trust, and you'll see more ways to build rapport. So just don't give up hope or feel like you're not doing your job well because your friend is not engaged with you. Eventually they will engage with you once you kind of understand how to build rapport and understand your learner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like you just can't take it personally because it's not about you. And it's not a reflection of whether or not this child, I mean, it is a reflection of whether or not they like you or don't like you, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because you're still learning and you're still working to figure out how to build a relationship. And I think in a lot of other scenarios, we get to choose, kids get to choose who they play with on the playground and things like this. But when you're paired as an RBT and a child or
Yeah.
client, you don't necessarily get to choose that pairing. But as the tech, you are the adult in the situation. And so you need to take the responsibility on yourself to figure out how to build a positive relationship. Like that child, no child is going to take that responsibility themselves, let alone a child who has a diagnosis and who needs significant support. And so I just think like a lot of times techs are like, "Well, I don't know, he doesn't want to hang out with me." And I'm like, I don't get discouraged. I get it. I know why you feel discouraged, but it's not about you. I see it as like a mission of like he doesn't want to hang out with me. I'm gonna get that kid to want to hang out with me.
It'd be
He's
so
gonna
cool
love
that
me.
you
Yeah.
want to aim to be the reinforcer, guys.
Yes.
Literally, you want to aim that you are the reinforcer, that your positive comment on their behavior, like, oh, great job, is enough. You don't need to receive a tangible. You want to be able to build their confidence and to know, like, whatever you share with them is going to be motivating for them to continue, and you could fade into the natural environment. That's
Yeah.
another thing. Always aim to fade into the natural environment and natural reinforcers around you. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you build a rapport and relationship and you have that instructional control, you'll really see how much smoother your sessions could really turn into. And then you had mentioned something earlier too. When it comes to building rapport with your learner, guys, you also have to build rapport with the families, especially at home. And that also gets a little tricky too. What are some comments that you've probably received or you've experienced when it comes to like building a relationship with the caregivers?
I'm going to punt this one back to you because I'm still kind of thinking about, I feel like I generally have good positive relationships and I need to break down how I've developed those relationships with families.
Yeah. So when I'll give you examples of like in the homes, guys, being in the home could be uncomfortable. Okay. Especially depending on the different personalities that are in the home, the authoritative statutes of the relationships in the home. For example, like I remember I worked for a family and the father was a state trooper. And I'm sharing that he's a state trooper because, you know, in that role, you have to be very authoritative, right? And it really showed at home too. Like he had a very short fuse. He was really quick to yell at the other kid, which can make the staff kind of feel uncomfortable, right? Especially if you understand who was responsible and you see the other child getting blamed for something that was absolutely not even their fault. You kind of have to know your place, and it gets a little icky, right? It could be uncomfortable. Or when the families are fighting, as the families are going through legal battles and they're fighting with their spouse in the house, because you are spending a lot of times in the home. So that could be uncomfortable. There is maybe they have a grandparent in the house and it could be, you know, uncomfortable navigating.
Yeah.
If it's a tight knit space, there's going to be times where you're uncomfortable. Even the different, everyone has a different idea of what cleanliness looks like, right? So it might not be up to your par, but you have to understand you're there to support our learners. But also too, you should also be speaking with your company in regards to some of the home policy, because if it's an unsafe environment or there's some funny things going on or illegal things that you're uncomfortable with, you need to speak up. But there's definitely, when it comes to building rapport, it's like, oh, having little small talk, like, hey, how was your day? You know, or, you know, sharing. And I think another great way to build rapport is just sharing little highlights of things that you've accomplished with the learner.
I like that one.
Yeah, it always comes back to the learner, guys. Like, oh my gosh, like, oh, watch this, or like, we just finished playing this game, but you want to take a turn with him, or she was able to do this. Let's see if she could do it with you. Getting them involved with little low effort tasks so that they can see and they can carry over when we're not there what our learner is capable of. Because that's another thing too, in the home setting, when a family is so used to like constantly helping, they're not giving the learner an opportunity to become independent on certain things. So it's like, no, wait, what? We've been practicing zipping up her jacket by herself. Watch this. And
yeah.
And the time thing, right? It's like, yeah, literally give her 3 minutes and she could do it by herself. And if modeling how we help with FCT and reminding her these little prompts, fading from physical prompts to verbal prompts, right? Oh, we got to park the garage in the zipper, all these little things so that they can see that, oh, this learner's mastering this skill. So let me make sure to carry it over and not take the opportunity away from them to limit their progress of actually really mastering that skill.
Yeah, the parents seeing what their child's capable of when you're not in like the chaos of being the parent, which is like, I just need you to get the jacket on, we got to go. But it's like, oh, wait, if I can back it up 2 minutes, I can give you 3 minutes to get it on and figure it out. And now I feel like, oh, I'm excited. Like, I'm not going to have to do everything for my kid forever. This is amazing. They contact reinforcement of the ABA program. Yeah. I love that. I actually look at it a little differently and like think about the flip side of like making sure the ABA program is not punishing. So like almost as like you're an anthropologist and you're going into this new environment and you want to make sure that you are being respectful of the home dynamic. I totally agree with you on the like if there's anything funny going on in the home and you're not comfortable, you absolutely need to speak up because at some point you're going to be in over your head and people are going to be like, why didn't you ask questions? And as a sidebar, this is a little bit of a tangent from my original point that I wanted to start, but I saw a post on Facebook maybe yesterday where somebody was like, I need to not work with a family anymore. One of the parents is abusive in XYZ way, but if I don't leave, then there's going to be nobody advocating for this child, and now I don't know what to do, but it's also traumatic for me. My therapist had to work with me a lot when I was changing jobs on like, these are not your children. Like, I felt like a lot of like feelings of abandonment. And like, I actually have my own children that if I left, I would abandon. Not that I am, but this is not, these are not, I don't have this, you don't have the same accountability to your clients that you do to your own children and your own family. And you can only do the best that you can do. And at some point, everything's not on our shoulders to fix
Yeah.
every single thing. But it was a really hard post. I was like, oh, that's a hard one. That's yeah.
And I literally shared that too with my mentorship last night, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're a BT and you are so passionate. I worked with a learner for 5 years, like 30 plus
Mm-hmm. It's
hours
a long
with
time.
her in the home. Like I was literally on the family calendar.
Oh my gosh,
It
so
was,
cute.
yeah. But I wanted to share too, right? It's because especially when the family trusts the RBT is like, oh, you can't go anywhere. No one else. I need to have you, right? But
Yeah.
yes, you need to have me, but the environment where I'm working at is not adding value to my life. I'm not growing. Like they're doing some shady stuff. How am I gonna stay to pour into the client when I know that any client that I'm gonna work with, I'm still gonna pour into that same energy and help shape that life and support the next version of who my client's gonna be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important not to keep yourself straggled because, oh my God, who else is gonna know how to, that he means this when he does that. You don't pause your potential because of a client. You need to do what's best for you mentally, physically, emotionally, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in your career to grow and evolve. And that really will hold people back. And I think
Yeah,
it's
it
important to
really does.
highlight, like, don't feel like you are obligated to stay because the family is pressuring you to stay. Like, no, you can't leave because it's not going to be the same. Like, I understand that, but you need to put yourself first. Wait,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I think if that happens, because I certainly have families I've been with for a long time, I think if that happens, you also need to look at then what are you doing that is so successful that needs to then be replicated because you are not going to be with this child forever.
We're supposed to phase out
And
our services.
yeah, and so whether it's training a new tech or training the parents or coming up with some type of system of like, if I can predict all of these, you have this knowledge that you can predict this behavior means this child saying this, or I know that a kid over there did this thing and now they're going to throw the crayons, or the crayon broke and I know they're going to have a meltdown. If you can think that and cognitively process that, you can output that for somebody else to learn as well. There is a way for you to be able to leave and also pass along your knowledge and
Mhm.
also ensure that this child transitions. I mean, this case with the family that may be abusive, that may be a different story, but I think that when it comes to being like the one person who knows this child the best, there are ways to then transition this knowledge. And I also think you need to be asking if you're starting to feel that way, you need to be telling the BCBA that you're feeling that way
Mhm.
because the BCBA and the team needs to be start to program and think like, oh, we don't want to get in a situation where it's just Christina, like God forbid Christina gets injured.
Or I get
This
sick
kid,
or I want to go on vacation
yeah,
for a week. Oh
this
no,
kid's
someone
up a
protect me.
creek. It's not fair to the child to be dependent on one person. And so if you're getting into a situation where they are dependent on one person, you as the RBT need to say like, "Ooh, I'm feeling stuck." And that means it's also bad for this child and this family. So before I get burnt out, like maybe we need somebody else even needs to do 2 hours a week. So we start getting someone else in there to learn this.
Mhm.
Or the BCBA needs to do more co-treats with me, or the parent needs to come do more with me, or we need to make new program goals so the kid is more independent. Like
Yeah.
there's so many directions to go in to make sure that you don't become a crutch.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it could lead to, right? It's like almost like prompt dependency, right? It's like they're always
Hmm.
depending on you for it's like no.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not the depending, yeah, for the meantime, but not forever. So
Yeah.
if you're coming in this field or you're in this field, I really want you to sit and reflect and understand like our job is like the only job really that we want to fade out services. So yes, it's considered intensive therapy because it's longer duration, but our goal is to
Hmm.
support and provide all the to shape our learners to build these behavioral cues to build independence. And if we are fading our services out. And you absolutely can transition whenever you want to, just do it appropriately. But don't feel like you're obligated to stay in an environment that's not supporting you, or feel like you
Yes.
have to stay with your client because no one else is going to know them better than you. Just think
Right.
about the impact that you did with that client and then the next impact that you're going to make with another family.
Right. Or many families. And I think it's just so important. And the next impact that the next tech can come in and do their thing with, and like the next level that they're going to get to with that client. I am back to my original point, which I got very sidebar tangent away from. It's fine. The whole anthropology piece, I feel like my goal when I go into a home is to not make their lives harder. I want to blend in. I want to understand their home dynamic. Like even as simple as like, is it a problem to park on the street? Is it a problem to park in your driveway? Is there somewhere you prefer? Cleaning up after myself. I hear from families so often that techs leave their house worse, leave stuff out. Like the child should be learning to clean up after themselves,
Oh my
or if
God,
for some reason they
hello.
can't tolerate that, it's not the parent's responsibility to clean up after you. You are a professional and you went into somebody else's space. Leave it the way you found it. Or
You're
help the
better.
child. Yeah, I was like, or help the child learn how to leave it better than you found it. And I just think that that is, like learning their schedule, learning their routines. I love the idea, like, if you learn what their schedule is, you learn like, oh, I know that when they're in this room, the doors close and they're in a meeting, but if they're in the kitchen, it's okay for me to send the child in to share something with mom. So like we're gonna do a drawing and then I'm gonna be like, go show this to mom. Go show it to mom. So now they can go show it and they can have a little conversation. And then I can
Mhm,
be like, okay, now come back to me and we're not gonna keep interrupting. Let mom do her thing. So you
mhm.
have those like little moments of connection. But I'm gonna learn, oh, we don't just barge into your office to connect. We don't just do this. We don't just barge in whenever it's convenient. I wait for those cues that signal to me that you're available for
Yeah.
connection so that I'm not making your life harder. Like my goal is that I'm learning their family system
Mhm.
so that I can come in and that like nobody's like, oh, Nicole's coming. The kids not the parents aren't like, oh, I have to tell Johnny that Nicole added another session. Johnny's gonna be pissed. Like, no, Johnny should want to see me, and you should want me to come to your house because you should be like, ah, Nicole's coming. Amazing. Yay, we're so excited for Nicole to be here. It can still be hard work. It doesn't have to be like Nicole's coming and she's making balloon animals, but like,
Mhm.
I'm coming and I'm not going to leave your house a mess and I'm not going to leave all my stuff everywhere. And I'm not going to teach your kid to do things and they're not going to be like in soiled, dirty clothes. And that I'm going to leave and you're going to be like, oh, that was like a good 2 hours. That was great. It was so helpful to my life.
And I know we've been talking about like a lot of the home or like clinic based, but the school, guys, like stakeholders in the school, like you have to build rapport as well in there too,
Mm-hmm.
especially as a BCBA. This past weekend at the summit, I was able to connect, I believe his name was Anthony Brona, and he does a lot in the administrative space.
Mm.
And I asked him, I was like, for BCBAs, like, what is your best advice for those that are working in a school setting in the
Mm-hmm.
and he said, build a rapport with the principal.
Mm.
Start with the principal. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah. And then you kind of trickle down to everyone else that's on the team. And especially in the school, guys, one way to build rapport in the school is definitely going to be not the use of nonverbal cues, especially like walking in the hallway or your learner might be having little, you're waiting them out in the hallway, right? It's like you could literally let people know when your learner's not looking like, oh, like, no, don't come this way. Like, we're okay. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I need help. So definitely leverage building rapport with those around you by using nonverbal cues
Yeah.
or like,
Mm-hmm. You're like, I'm good, or like, I'll let you know, whatever it is. Some type of, I love that. Yeah. I worked in a lot of schools. So, and I feel like you have to get to know the school and their philosophy. And I think as a tech, especially if you're working in, let's say you work, and I think this is common in New Jersey. I don't know if this happens in Connecticut, but school districts hire ABA agencies to contract as opposed to hiring, like when I back almost 20 years ago. Back in the day, I was an ABA technician in a classroom and I was hired by the school district
yeah.
directly.
Mhm.
Now, more often than not, it tends to be you work for like ABA 123 and ABA 123 has a contract with any town school district, and they send you into, we have this kid and we send you into that classroom or whatever
Yep.
to work directly with this kid. And so you're not employed by the school, but you're at the school every single day.
Yes, that's how it is
And
here too, depending on the
yeah,
contract.
you see the teacher more than you see the BCBA,
Yep.
but you're not, they're technically not your supervisor, but you're in their classroom.
That part, right?
Yeah, it's a
That
hard, that's like a hard space. It's
Yes,
a,
I'm
yeah.
so happy you brought that, guys, right? Especially like Nicole said, like the teacher is not your supervisor. Your BCBA is a supervisor. And it could get sticky when your supervisor is telling you one thing, but the teacher may be telling you another thing. But it could be messy of like, oh, well, I can't do that because my BCBA. Like that's why it's so important to communicate effectively and collaboratively, especially in the school. All right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and as a BCBA, you need to also understand, guys, like that tech is in that environment every single day. So if you're going to give a place a demand on your tech, you better communicate with the teacher like, hey, I'm going to have Jessica, whenever right now, this is going to be the procedure whenever so-and-so has a behavior. So if Jessica needs a little bit more time for transitioning, just, give her a minute for that transition so that the teacher's in the loop understands the context behind what the instructions are that the supervisor is providing the RBT who's in the classroom that also needs to respect the classroom.
Yeah. It's a lot. And it can feel as a tech overwhelming. Because even when I worked in public school, I was in a self-contained class, but then I would bring kids into other teachers' classrooms,
Yes.
and they were not my supervisor. The teacher in the class, my classroom was my supervisor. But you have to learn to respect the space that you're going into, even
Mm-hmm.
if you don't agree with it. And you also have to respect the reality of it. And I think being that advocate to say, I hear you, BCBA, you want to implement this program. The teacher's not allowing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like, that's not going to work for the space we're in. What else you got? What other ideas do you have? Here are
Mm-hmm.
my barriers in the
Yes.
reality of the classroom. These are the barriers.
And guys, as an RBT or one-to-one, use that phrase. These are my barriers, right? So it's not like, hey, I'm not doing that because it's like, no, these are the barriers that I'm facing if I was to run that program. Like Mrs. Smith does not have these type of chairs, and the way that her environment is set up, it's not going to be successful for little Johnny to be able to sit over here. Or you know what? Where he's sitting at over here is next to the window and it's all these distractions. He's trying to pull the window seal down and he's trying to get the plan. So maybe we should talk to the teacher to see if she could arrange the environment and have him sit somewhere else. Or, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's like, oh, he's sitting by the vent and it's kind of cold. And every time the AC comes on, which is every 30 minutes, you notice him cover his eyes because of the sound is overbearing for him. So maybe let's replace his chair and put him next to it somewhere else where the vent is not so loud. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like all these different things. So you want to use this, like it goes back to what we mentioned before, bringing it back to the client, right? It's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
but also bring it back to the teacher. So as a one-to-one, it's your job to advocate for your, not only the student, but also the teacher. If
Yeah.
there's not a lot of communication between the teacher and the BCBA, it's your job to play both roles because you're there every day. The BCBA is not, and you're supporting the kid. You're on that kid's team. So you're the biggest voice for everyone on the team, to be honest.
Yeah. That's such a good point. It is, it really is. And it's a hard role to have because you feel like you have to take in everybody's.
That's why we wear so
Um,
many hats. And it's like,
what did you say? You said something. I'm like, rewind. What did
I
you
know, right?
say? It was such a good point. And I was like, I want to comment on that.
Is it the environments and the sounds in the environments?
It was, and you were saying like Mrs. Smith does da da da. Mrs. Smith can run her classroom however Mrs. Smith wants to run her classroom. The
Yes.
same way that a parent can run their house however they want to run their house. Granted, if there's anything that's abuse, neglect, you got to get the right people involved in those things. But for the most part, parents can run their house the way they want to run their house. Teachers can run their classroom the way they want to run their classroom. And I think there's often this like, well, ABA is here and we're going to change everything and fix everything. Like the goal is to, I don't want to say the goal is to fit in because that sounds like it's not neurodiversity
You gotta
affirming.
adapt to the environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And the goal is to teach our clients to be adaptive to the environment. It's not to mask who they are to
Yeah.
adapt to the environment. It's to learn how to handle what that environment is bringing to them
Yes.
and be able to regulate and say like, nope, we tried the headphones and we tried this and we tried that. And he still cannot sit next to that air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mrs. Smith, we haven't asked you for anything all year. Can you switch Johnny's seat?
Mm-hmm.
Like We tried to figure out what to do about that air conditioning, and it's not working for Johnny.
Yeah, and also too, guys, this is why I'm not a fan of the middle school or the high school. I'll be the first one to tell you. There's 7 teachers, that's 7 different classrooms, that's 7 different environments, that's 7 different learning styles and 7 different subjects. Think about all the different classroom adjustments, transitions, instructional control. That gets messy. So if I'm a fan of the elementary school, because you got one teacher, you got the same kids in the same classroom all year long, and you got the specials once a week. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it gets tricky when you have to navigate and support and have 7 different personalities running a behavior intervention plan. And it's like, oh, well, I only get Johnny for 45 minutes on Tuesday. So I didn't even know the first step. But it's,
Right.
I'm getting PTSD thinking about the school.
Right.
I don't have a positive experience in a middle school or high school.
But it's a different reality. Some people like that. And I think it's a different obstacle of like, okay, I just got to get all these people to be like, oh, thank God, Christina's here today. She's not gonna know how to help Johnny in my classroom, as opposed to like, Christina's here again and she's gonna make sure I know this plan. And I don't know the plan because I have 700 other students.
700 students.
Yeah. So it's gotta
He
be
elopes out my classroom anyway. So I just have to deal with him for 5 minutes, especially like, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, leave.
Yeah. And like you cannot force the teachers to do what you want them to do, or what maybe you do need them to do.
Yeah.
But the goal is that like you figure out a way to be in that classroom and to help that child be in that classroom in a way that is as unobtrusive as possible. And so that again, like when the teacher sees you, they're like, oh, great. It's so nice to see Christina today. That was great. Like, I'm so glad Christina joined for my class this once a week. It's like
also too, one of my favorite things was to connect and collaborate with the other providers, being able to generalize what he's learning in SLP so that the staff go ahead. Oh, you're working on prepositions, ins and outs. Okay, we have a speech on Tuesdays for 30 minutes. What do you think is going to generalize and carry over that context and that concept for our learner throughout the week? How many opportunities do you think you could practice in and out in 30 seconds on Tuesday versus how many opportunities you could practice in and out between a 6-hour day times 5 days a week, right? It's like, it's so important to collaborate, guys, and build a rapport and relationship with everybody on the team, because it ultimately comes down to the service we're providing for our learner. So it's so important to have everyone feel comfortable and confident with navigating, working together as a team.
Yes. I think building those connections is just so important. What do you feel like happens when you have people who don't establish connections? Yes, I feel like we've talked a lot about why it's helpful, but why is it actually like hurtful when we don't try to make a connection with our client or their families or their team?
Yeah, especially when we're working like longer duration with people, right? It could be awkward, right? It's like, this is a relationship that we're establishing. And why do you want it to be so awkward? Like sitting at the table, it's quiet. You're not even trying to get to know me as a person. And we're in the field of helping people. And in order to help people, you want to be interested in the person, right?
Yeah, like, ooh, that's a good way to put it. I love that.
So how are you not going to be interested in the person that you are sharing the same time with? You're sharing the same environment with somebody else. Don't you want it to be pleasant and uplifting and positive?
Yeah.
Why do I want the energy to be awkward, uncomfortable? Like, oh, I got to sit here for 6 hours, 7 days, 5 days a week. Like, why do you want to place yourself in an environment where you don't even find it reinforcing? If you're not capable of building a rapport with the people that you have to tolerate in your environment, why are you okay with placing yourself in an environment like that?
Right. Like, is this the right space for you?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I think
that's a really interesting question.
Like, what the heck?
Yeah. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. Well, what about me in terms of like what I think the problem is if you don't build a rapport?
Yeah.
I feel like nobody feels bought into the program, which is like, to your point, if you're not bought into the program, nobody's going to be bought into the program. And that's kind of how I feel, is that if you don't develop a relationship, let's say you don't take the time to develop a good relationship with a parent, then as a tech, then they might be like, oh, I don't want Nicole in my home. I'd like a different person. And then purely from a financial perspective, those are your hours. That's your income.
Yeah.
And so their opinion of you matters. And for yourself for making money, but then also for that child is that if you are genuinely invested in helping this child, and let's say you develop a great relationship with the child, but you don't give the parent a lot of energy or investment, and then the
Mhm.
parent is like, meh, oh, I'm good without Nicole. Like this other tech is so friendly to me. I want them in my, can I get Christina in the house more? Then the treatment's not going to be as successful. Or let's say every provider is not that inviting or enjoyable. Then they're going to be like, "Oh, ABA is not really working. I don't really enjoy spending time with these people. My kid doesn't need ABA. We're not benefiting from ABA. We're not enjoying ABA. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to get rid of that." And now this child is not getting ABA because you didn't make a connection.
And also too, there's going back to the pay, because there, I know that's also like a little tricky topic in our field, but there's also like companies that do pay really well for RBTs. And there are people that will see like, oh, well, I'm getting paid $30 an hour. So this is my job. I'm getting paid to stay here and just not even engage because they're getting paid a decent hourly rate. And you have to be in the field because you really love what you are contributing to your job. This is not, hey, I'm stocking a shelf permanent product. No, you are helping evolve a family. You're helping build independence and self-confidence in the clients that we are working with. You are literally making an impact in somebody's life. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to see your job as that. This is not like working at CVS or bagging groceries. You are making an impact every day with how you come off and how you provide opportunities for enrichment for your learner. Come into this field confident, knowing the value that you're bringing, and don't put like, oh, have that mentality, oh, I'm clocking in and clocking out. You know what I mean? Just know that you're contributing so much to a very important cause, and you are going to have an impact on this person. And it's really up to you to just like, if it's going to be a positive impact or a negative impact. And we want to see positivity,
And if you are feeling, because I think this happens a lot for techs, if you are not feeling or seeing the results of that impact, then the BCBA needs to be also doing a better job, which I know is hard. But if you are not understanding why you're going in and running certain programs, or you're not understanding what you're doing, or you're not seeing things move forward, and you're like, oh my God, we've been doing the same thing for 6 months and I don't understand why we're doing it. Again, back to the toothbrushing, like you're making me brush their teeth and they hate brushing their teeth. What am I even doing this for? You need to be having those conversations with the BCBA, because that means that their program is either not functional or is missing reinforcement or prompting that is necessary or prerequisite skills that are necessary, or you as the RBT are not contacting those contingencies. I think electronic data collection platforms, this has been a detriment to the RBT position, because when I was a technician, we had to graph all of our data by hand. And so you could literally see like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago, they were getting this 20% and now they're getting this at 70%.
Yeah.
Like, how cool. Look at that. Look at that different. Like, the graphing was the reinforcement of like, oh, I'm seeing progress, or like, oh, I'm not seeing progress here. Let me talk to the BCBA.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned that, Nicole, because that's also how I build rapport with my grad students. Like I literally, as soon as I start with the next set, like every session is, all right, guys, let's look at the graphs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's look at the graphs.
Me too. That's why I'm always like, hey, look at the graphs. And a lot of them are like, we've never looked at the graphs.
And it's like, oh my God, look at this cool trend. I get to nerd out on the graphs. I want to get them excited to see like, oh my gosh, look at the progress, or like, oh, he's kind of be consistent here. Let's kind of switch it up, right? But it's so important for them to see like, hey, that data point that you think means nothing every day, here's the permanent product to show like, hey, look at the work that you're doing. Look at the product you're making. You are responsible for this. Like, look, and also too, especially when it comes to behaviors, like emotional response, SIB, aggression, whatever the behaviors that you're tracking. I also like to share like, oh, look, on this date, he had 17 instances of SIB. Let's look at, let's compare it to the emotional response. There should be a correlation. Watch there be a correlation. And sure enough, they can see like, oh, wow. They see the ticks of like, okay, well, what happened? That was when he was getting his he had a toothache and he had cavities. And then we told him about cavities and they got his cavities fixed. And guess what? His behaviors went down. So important to show your BTs, RBTs, your graphs. Guys, if you're in the field, ask your BCBAs during supervision. Oh, could we go over the graphs together? What's the next goal that's almost meeting mastery?
Mm-hmm.
Ask your BCBAs those questions, guys. And as a
Yeah.
BCBA, show your grad students, like, okay, look, let's focus on this because he's about to master it. Let's focus on today. You want me to model
Yeah.
it, or you want to show me how you've been doing it? Okay, that is going to be an easy way for you to build rapport with your reciprocated rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And if your BCBA has
Yeah.
a problem with that, that's a red flag.
Yes, I agree completely that if the BCBA is like, oh, well, you don't need to see the graphs or I don't have time to show you the graphs, I just think the graphs, that's the reinforcement because I find like when I'm looking at them, I'm like, oh, look at this. We taught you something. So
Yeah,
cool.
it's like,
Or the
look how
videos of
nice.
like I had a parent, I was working with a kid and he was making oatmeal and I couldn't find a bowl, so I just used a cup. And then the next week the mom was like, he couldn't find the bowls, but he found a cup, so he made himself a cup of oatmeal. And like you had told me you did that because you didn't know where we kept the bowls. And like, look, he figured it out on his own. And I was like, oh my God, I did that. Like
Right?
it feels, you're like, my job has meaning.
It's so rewarding, guys. Like
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, every single day you're working with your learner, you are making an impact, whether you believe it or not. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's everything is a shaping process, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, terminal behavior. Like some behaviors you can shape in a couple seconds. And I love when I can show and model, like, oh, look,
Yeah.
easily I was able to fade physical to now he's doing independent within 5 trials. It's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
magic. Others, it's going to take a little time. But
Could take years.
understand every single day is a part of the shaping process, and you are
Yeah.
part of that version of the learner that you're shaping, but also you're a part of the version of who you're going to be tomorrow. So
Yeah.
be excited to gain more ABA wisdom and ask questions and question your BCBA, because it's honestly, guys, the more knowledge that you have, the more confident you're going to be in navigating your ABA tool set to help support your learner, but ultimately to help support you in your sessions.
Yeah. I know. I always think of that too. I'm always like, don't you want to make your sessions more enjoyable and easier? I think people do, but they maybe don't know how to or don't know how to ask. There's a good book. I love Harvard Business Review. They're not behavior analytic, but I do love their resources. And I find that they talk a lot about behavior. So they are behaviorally based, called Managing Up and Across. And I feel like that gives really good strategies on how to advocate for yourself with supervisors, how to remain professional with peers, all of these skills. Because I think what's hard is that oftentimes, again, people think of pairing with clients as like, I have to go in and I have to be bubbly and overexcited. And then they think of peering with other adults as like, we got to go out and we got to have dinner together and we got to go drinking. And it's like, there's
Yeah.
so many ways to develop a positive relationship outside of this tiny little box that you've defined.
Yeah, it goes back to that quality, right? Like, what
Yeah.
does your learner find as quality? Oh, they're interested in Monopoly games. Play around a Monopoly.
Yeah.
What's the last game that they played? Right? Like,
Yeah.
leverage your learner special interest to build rapport and actually use it for your programs if you can.
Yeah. I would
Hello.
love that. I used to make board games I used to turn like programs into board games. I did a DRO, maybe it wasn't a DRO. I don't know, some type of a token economy that was a board game and his piece would move forward and then when he got to the end, he would get his reward when he like won the game.
Yeah.
And then you can like add more, which is great because then you can add more spaces and you can make the game like harder to thin reinforcement,
Mhm.
but keep the same structure.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's especially with, I know there's like a lot of like it's like hit or miss with the people's opinions on token economies. But if you're able to utilize a token economy and fade out quickly and build that concept within your learner, you could get so much done. It's just, I love utilizing token economies because I know I already have a plan for fading out. Understand that concept of first then. It's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the token board becomes paired with reinforcement. And so they know when they see the token board that this is going to be rewarding and enjoyable and worth it and worth their time. And like, okay, I'm bought in. Like, you got the token board, you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good about it. I feel like when you use it properly, it should be a sign that good things are coming and that like there's a structure. And I think especially for kids with autism who need that rigidity and repeatability,
Yeah.
the token board is a sign that like, you're going to do what you say. When
Mm-hmm.
that token board is out, I'm gonna if I ask you for something, I'm gonna get it. And I'm like you know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. That could be a whole
Yeah.
nother little mini
I
yeah.
know. I know, right? I think it could be. I would love to talk about token because they're like I feel I have a lot of strong feelings on token boards, but I do agree with you that I think they can be really useful when done properly.
Yeah, we could share stories of like the different types of token schedules that we've used. I have like
Yes.
two good ones that are be like great eye openers for people to listen to.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. I think we probably should wrap up.
So like, subscribe, and follow us. And stay tuned for our next episode, which we'll be discussing. What's the next concept?
Control. So our next episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about control, and which is the opposite, the flip side of connection, and what happens when we come in like BCBAs and bowls in China shop, and what does that look like, and how do we develop instructional control, and why is that phrase so problematic?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have feelings on it.
Words too.
What?
We could use token board talk too for control.
Yes, actually, that's a really great point. So stay tuned. We're giving you guys a little sneak preview of what we're going to be talking about next time. So thanks so much.
And we'll catch you guys soon. Like, subscribe, follow us, and thank you to our title sponsors, the New England Center for Children.
Yes,
Bye.
and please share our podcast. Bye.